Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Just trying to pin the live show. Pin to your profile. Pin. Yep, there we go. Pin. Okay. By the time everyone tunes in for the first part of the live show, let's do the intro, disclaimer, and session what we're going to be talking about on tonight's live. Welcome to the CMF live show. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday, Friday, 10 p.m. long time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much all the information you should know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. The disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And we also do Q&As in this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out. This is episode 413 of the CMF live show everybody's watching right now. Sorry about yesterday, we didn't go live, mainly due to essentially me helping out my business partner who was essentially moving departments. Sorry about that, everyone, but we are on live today. Before we do start off on tonight's live show regarding the news, and there's a bit of news to cover regarding Gary Gensler, who is somebody we thought would never be back inside the crypto space, but he is. Also talking about essentially the United Kingdom and other things that are happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, institutions entering the cryptocurrency space even further, and obviously Ripple news to go through on tonight's live just like usual. But before we do any of that, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news. So let's see where we're at. Scott, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been, brother? Good day, Miles. How did the move go? It was excruciatingly long, and I slept yesterday as well. We went to essentially leave to go and buy medicine. Ironically, we went to go and buy medicine, and I slipped on the floor and went knee first into the ground. Hurt quite badly, actually. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. How you doing? I didn't slip or hurt myself or injure myself regarding the move, but I did afterwards when I went to the supermarket to buy medicine. Hey, Miles, the CMF commenters, good to see you as well. How you doing, bro? How you been? Mike, good. Let's go. Woodhouse, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF. How you doing today, boss? I'm doing great, Carlos. Good to see you as well. Hi, Miles, the CMF. Good to see you as well. Stormy, how you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles and CMF members. Good to see you as well. Let's go, Scott. GG's back. Let's go, JP. How you doing? Good evening, Miles. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Kelly, how you doing? Hi, Miles and CMF. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's go, Ronnie. Let's go. How you doing, bro? Long time. Be careful. Definitely. If you're on the meds, then it's going to be a good show. On the meds, it's going to be a good show. Yeah. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? And let's get into tonight's live show. The first news on tonight's live show is regarding somebody that we thought is out of the picture. You know, Gary Gensler, in other words. It seems like he's back on the news, and this time around, it's different what Gary Gensler has said. Normally, typically he hates the crypto space in general. This time around, it seems it's 50-50. So here it is. Gensler warns on risky crypto markets as essentially Bitcoin is standing down. Former SEC chairman Gary Gensler warned essentially today during a Bloomberg TV interview that most cryptocurrencies still carry high risk, stating that thousands of tokens lack real fundamentals while Bitcoin holds a separate regulatory profile. His remarks came as a major essentially digital asset showed renowned strength over several weeks of weak demand, driving fresh attention to this essentially long-held stance. Gensler explained that global interest remains strong. However, he argued that most tokens continue without meaningful underlying support. He said that Bitcoin fits closer to a commodity framework, and according to his regulatory views, while many other tokens rely mostly on price expectations. I can't believe I'm saying this for the first time ever, that I actually agree with Gary Gensler. Somebody that I thought I would never come to an agreement of anything that he would possibly say. But it's making sense. For the first time ever, Gary Gensler is not just criticizing the crypto space in general. He's saying some crypto projects actually have utility, while others are lying about their utility. I agree with that. He also essentially added that this assessment does not extend to a US dollar-backed stablecoin. This essentially points set up to his broader warning about speculative behavior that he claims still defines much of the market space. He said many assets essentially offer no dividends or clear purpose, and he described them as volatile. His comments repeated positions he held between 2021 and 2025, when he oversaw several enforcement actions. Building on that, Gensler addressed debates over political influence and crypto regulations. He dismissed claims that digital assets operate as a partisan issue and declined to comment on President Donald Trump's role, essentially regarding what happened to him. Smart man, Gary Gensler, for keeping his mouth shut, because the last time he tried to open his mouth against essentially Trump, Gary Gensler lost his job. However, he said oversight must protect the strength of the US markets, stressing that regulatory focus stays on structural essentially risks. This position aligned with his previous comments about long-term market stability. Gensler then noted that the exchange essentially ETF products are influencing trading patterns across the sector. He said he was not surprised that digital assets now resemble traditional markets due to the natural essentially constellation phases. Interesting, Gary Gensler, that you essentially are coming out now, after all this stuff that you pulled inside the crypto space. Now you're coming out and saying he's not surprised that digital assets now resemble traditional markets due to their natural essentially movements. Well, Gary Gensler, if you have this feeling now, why didn't you have it before? Because if you let the crypto space essentially bring innovation back then, you could have been seeing these types of movements back then, and you wouldn't be holding back the crypto space for a couple of years, which is exactly what you did, you absolute moron of a tool. This view linked to essentially to his recognition that markets continue growing, even as he maintains that many altcoins still show high volatility. He also pointed out to the ongoing growth in tokens with strong liquidity. Here's the interesting part regarding Gary Gensler. He said, including essentially Ethereum, XRP, Solana, BNB, Cardano, and Chainlink. He's seeing growth in those projects. Ironically, one of them is a crypto project that he just decided to sue from day one and never let go, which was essentially XRP. But now he's showing some sort of essentially positiveness towards XRP in a way. It's nice to see somebody as much of a moron as Gary Gensler is coming around finally. Bit too late, but it's coming around. Now, moving on from essentially what Gary Gensler had to say, the absolute idiot, to Yellen. Now, so far, one particular party who hates Trump, the Democratic Party who hates Trump, has tried so far to make Trump look bad in every type of possible way they could. They tried to make Trump look bad that he hates certain groups of people, or they tried to make Trump look bad that he's best friends with Epstein. That didn't work either, because the person that released the information actually backfired on her. They tried to essentially stop Trump from expanding into the Middle East, because they said essentially that's not good. It's not a good image, even though the Democrats don't know what a good image is. They tried everything, and just a few days ago, they tried to go after the crypto advisor of Trump's team and tried to say that he's being paid off by companies. They're trying everything they possibly can. Now, the newest method is trying to say Trump is mental and unstable and has a mental condition. So, here is the newest claims by Democrats trying their best to make Trump look bad in every case possible. So here it is. Yellen refutes the rumors of Trump's mental decline. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen publicly refuted claims about President Trump's mental health today, affirming these are unfounded, essentially aimed media reports suggesting behavioral concerns. The denial essentially sheds light on political dynamics, but has no reported effects on cryptocurrency markets so far, or blockchain sectors, maintaining focus on traditional financial markets. Janet Yellen has publicly refuted recent claims regarding President Trump's mental health. These claims, essentially generated from media analysis, describe potential issues based on his reduced public activity. They're trying to say Trump is hiding again and not doing too many interviews. I'm sorry, Biden never did an interview. The guy never left his bedroom, or the bed, to be fairly honest. Reports also noted that changes in Trump's behavior during meetings and suggested a possible link to Trump's Syndrome Research Act of 2025, introduced by Rep. Warren Davidson. The allegations involve a 39% decrease in Trump's public engagements compared to his first term. Maybe that because he's busy, maybe because he's the president of the United States and there's a lot of stuff to do. Maybe that's the reason why there's a 39% decrease in interviews or BS interviews with essentially liberal TV channels. Maybe he's trying to run the United States and help essentially the rest of the world, or essentially draw partnerships, bring more contracts and bring more deals in. Maybe that's what he's doing as the president of the United States. The claims regarding President Trump's mental state essentially are 100% false, said Janet Yellen, the U.S. Treasury Secretary. It's very interesting, honestly. The Democrats have the cheek to come out and say Trump is mentally unstable and needs mental health, or he's dying or something, whereas Biden couldn't stand, talk, walk, move in general, pick up a pencil, go up the stairs, go down the stairs, drive a car, drive a bike, shake a hand. Didn't know the basics to his left hand, his right hand. But none of the Democratic Party saw anything wrong with that. Biden was fully stable, according to them. But Trump decreasing a few interviews, all of a sudden he's dying and he has mental issues. It's very odd the way the Democratic Party works, honestly. They are trying everything they possibly can to make this man look bad. How about you just let him do his job? Honestly, the Democrats should be focusing more on bringing innovation inside the United States, not kicking it out or trying to go against Trump. That brings nothing towards the table. Making look, essentially, honestly, I'll be very honest, making Trump look bad achieves absolutely jack squat. You're wasting taxpayers' dollars when you're trying to give journalists BS stories you make up your own imaginary la-la brainheads. And you're wasting taxpayers' dollars. You're wasting everybody's time. People chose you to sit in those positions to make their lives better, not to go after Trump. People care about lower taxes, lower rent payments, lower grocery prices, lower something. That's what people voted you in for, not to go after Trump and make up lies. That achieves nothing. The man is still going to be there until the end of his presidency, and you spent 4 years going after somebody you couldn't get. Well, you could have spent those 4 years trying to maybe make American lives better, because maybe that's why your voters voted for you. But, let's see how that one goes. Because the Democrats don't give up on chasing after things that do not matter. Honestly, if the Democrats spent more time trying to do something to better the lives of American people rather than just going after Trump, maybe something would change. Now, moving on from that to Anthony Schumer. Anthony Schumer, essentially Skybridge CEO. And honestly, every time they go after Trump, it's just wasting everybody's time inside the crypto space. We want crypto regulations, not what can you find next on Donald Trump. All we want is crypto regulations. Now, Anthony Schumer essentially coming out from Skybridge and saying his next big bet is on Solana. Schumer crowned Solana one of the bigger, essentially, winners of tokenization in his point of view. Solana got a midweek boost after Skybridge founder Anthony Schumer took to CNBC today to declare the blockchain a top contender in the race to become the industry standard for tokenized assets. In classic Schumer fashion, he framed the moment with equal parts and swagger and analogy, comparing today's blockchain competition to the early cloud wars, when everyone wondered which essentially scrappy upstart might become the next AWS. Because Web3 is relying on Web2 to work, which doesn't make any sense. So there has to be an alternative to AWS, which is Amazon servers, which is essentially, going to be making Web3 actually Web3, not Web2, just rebranded as Web3. Now, there was more than one winner, according to essentially Anthony. Tokenization will drive the next chapter of digital finance as smart contracts migrate onto faster, cheaper blockchain, essentially Rails. And Solana, he says, stands out because its architecture borrows from proven computing concepts rather than crypto-native experimentations. That familiarity, essentially, he argues, has helped Solana become a go-to platform for builders, and essentially a core position for both Skybridge and his personal essentially portfolio also. Schimmer linked essentially likened the firm's early essentially Solana exposure to his Bitcoin strategy, which he started 5 years ago, and people called him crazy. When critics essentially scuffled and institutions hadn't had it yet, RSVP'd, then they did. He expects a similar everyone said I was early until suddenly I wasn't for Solana. The cryptocurrency is trading above its 100 essentially hour simple moving average after climbing past the key essentially Fibonacci retracement levels from its previous declines. The digital asset recovery has occurred alongside gains of other essentially major cryptocurrencies. Solana's technical essentially setup shows bullishness and momentum building on the hourly essentially MCAT and the RSI essentially holding above 50, but the token still essentially faces tight resistance and overhead. Analysts also say a breakout could open the doors to essentially to higher price targets, while failure to clear the near-term resistance may send Solana back towards its recently broken trend line and lower support levels. The broader trend essentially remains bearish until Solana can close above $158 and hold above essentially $176 through essentially Anthony Schimmer argues today's prices could look cheap if Solana becomes a core platform for tokenization. Is Solana going to become the #1 platform for tokenization? No, I'll be honest. But is Solana going to be playing a role in tokenization? Yes, that I can agree with 100%. Solana will play a role in tokenization. The same way BNB will play a role in tokenization. The same way ARB will play a role in tokenization. Ondo will play a role in tokenization. The XRP ledger will play a role in tokenization. But the idea of crowning one crypto project as the king of tokenization going forward is stupid. I'll be very honest. Now, moving forward from Anthony Schimmer's perspective of what's the crown the tokenization project to Georgia. Apparently, Georgia is now exploring essentially on-chain land registry with Hedera, which is quite a big step. The Ministry of Justice has begun working with Hedera under a newly signed essentially MOU signaling essentially a start of wider investigations into how networks could support state-level digital transformation. It's quite big. Instead of essentially of committing to a specific rollout, the agreement gives the ministry space to test whether Hedera's architecture can support essentially national While Hedera's essentially architecture can support national property records, a system that forms the backbone of Georgia's essentially legal and economic structures. Officials say they want to understand how on-chain data storage could strengthen the integrity and the traceability of ownership documents. One of the ideas now being essentially examined is a future where essentially property titles become tokenized assets. That shift would open the door to new methods of transforming essentially ownership, securing titles, and verifying records without essentially depending solely on centralized government servers. The ministry plans to assemble essentially mixed teams of public sectors and experts and Hedera specialists to map out the technical and legal steps required for such a transformation. This is amazing news that they're doing some sort of testing on Hedera, because we haven't had much news for a while now regarding HBAR. So this is quite big news. For Georgia, the initiative essentially is the latest entry into much longer essentially timeline. The country was experimenting with blockchain essentially based property essentially verifications for years before other governments considered similar products. In 2017, it connected parts of its registry to the blockchain, essentially to the Bitcoin blockchain, creating cryptographic proofs for more than 100,000 properties and entries, establishing itself as an early adopter essentially of decentralized technology for public administrations. Various political groups and government-backed organizations have since essentially pushed blockchain pilots in areas such as administration, record keeping, and transparency. While not every essential initiative has secured a long-term adoption, the country's appetite for experimenting with essentially decentralized infrastructure has remained consistent. The Ministry of Justice is not the only agency engaging with blockchain firms. Georgia's central bank has also held multiple discussions with Ripple executives about essentially broad digitalization efforts, building on its earlier decisions to select Ripple as its technical partner for its CBDC research. And also, essentially, international firms such as Tether have also ended partnerships to explore peer-to-peer payment technologies within the country. If the evaluation phase concludes that Hedera meets Georgia's needs, the country could move to essentially towards one of the most advanced blockchain-backed and land registry systems in the world. The model could eventually also support tokenized real estate markets, automated verification processes, and tamper-resistant public databases. So it seems like Georgia is going to be using for their CBDC, Ripple still, for their essentially tokenization stage, they're looking into Hedera in terms of testing and experimenting. And in terms of stablecoins, USDT is trying to push its way in. But big news, honestly, for Hedera, to be fairly honest, because we haven't had much any sort of major news coming out for H4, but that is a big one, and let's see how that one goes. Now, moving on from Georgia to a country that's very close to Georgia, Russia. But before we talk about Russia, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there. Let's see where we're at inside the comment section. We were at, as I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, go for inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we're at inside the comment section. We were here. Ouch. Mouse comment. Hey, everyone. Let's go, Shelly. Let's go, CMF. Get well, Miles. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles and family. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you all free and forever. How you doing? What, Miles? Agree with the weasel? Well, chat alive, folks. Yeah, it must be the meds if Miles is agreeing with him. Evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well, Jason. How you doing? Gary can't decide what to think most of his age. I agree 100%. They are going after one another. Neither party has good examples of good leadership or person representing the United States. I agree, Scott. I agree. Gary the Weasel. Gensler needs to be quiet. I agree. XRP, XLM, HPRO is slow and steady, but solid in my humble opinion. I also agree with that as well. I wonder if XRP will be double digits by the last days of the year. Let's see. A lot of things need to fall into place, but let's see. Miles, some of the same things you are saying should have been said while Biden was in office, but weren't. When Biden was in office, I did say it. When Biden was in office, I said he's incompetent. I said he's incompetent, can't walk upstairs, is what I said against Biden as well. I want regulations. I want my bags to increase. I also get tired of some of the one-sided politics. Well, I'll be honest, Scott, it's only one side that's stopping the crypto space. Putting aside the health situations or the labor situation or the paycheck situation, grocery prices, oil prices, putting everything to the side, okay? Putting everything to one side. There's only one party in the United States holding back the crypto space, while the other party is trying to bring innovation. As how way it may be they're trying to bring innovation, having sit-downs with CEOs or essentially pushing some sort of crypto agendas, whatever it may be, there's one party in the US, putting everything else aside, putting health, paychecks, groceries, oil prices, fuel price, put everything to one side, just the crypto topic. Just the crypto topic. There's only one party in the United States, the Democrats, that are trying their best in every shape and form possible most of the times to stop the crypto space, just the crypto discussion. The other party, the Republicans, are the ones advancing the crypto space. Republicans want to introduce crypto regulations. Democrats want to stop crypto regulations. Republicans decided to have a sit down with Democrats regarding crypto regulations. Democrats decided to change everything that the Republicans wrote to slow down crypto innovation. So there's only one party relatable to cryptocurrencies. There's only one party in the United States stopping crypto innovation. That's the Democratic Party. That's factual. The other party, the Republicans, are actually trying to bring innovation, putting everything else to one side. Putting gas prices, grocery prices, war scenarios, everything else, health scenarios to one side, just crypto. One party is stopping crypto and stopping innovation. It's the Democratic Party, and that's factual. The other party, Republicans, are trying to bring crypto innovation. That's the thing that's essentially factual. Putting everything else to one side, because the crypto stuff is what we care about, to be fairly honest. You know, everybody wants their bags to grow, and so do you. You want your bags to grow as well. Everyone wants their bags to grow. Good evening, Miles and family. Susie, good to see you. How you doing? I found a video that gave me clarity on Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3 yesterday. It was enlightening. Let's go, Scott. What up, Miles and CMF? Ray, good to see you, brother. How you doing? I've been looking essentially at SHX and I'm still researching and checking it out for future utility. Let's go, Scott. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. It's like it's zoomed in for me. The display is it just mine or is anyone else's? T, go out, come back in. Should be fixed, brother. Hi, Miles CMF. Sorry I'm late. Mickey, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? Hi Miles, lots of different views out there about price of XRP by the end of quarter one 2026. What's your view? Not financial advice, of course. Quarter one, we're supposed to have the Clarity Act out of the way. Apparently, they're going to be having a discussion this month regarding the Clarity Act, which you're going to go from tonight's live. Quarter one, we should have the Clarity Act out of the way. Quarter one, 3 months is enough time for whatever up and down movements the market wants to do to scare some people out of their positions, because now the Clarity Act's in. We should see some sort of slight price movements, not just for essentially XRP, but for the rest of crypto space as well, including the XRP, obviously. But quarter two, quarter three, quarter four is when we see more price action happening. Quarter one is just going to be a lot of paperwork processing. And also, essentially, market movements happening as well. The Clarity Act is the biggest thing we get out of the way. Honestly, it's the biggest thing we get out of the way. And I said to you, what's going to happen? When a Clarity Act happens, two things will happen. These two outcomes will play out. One of these outcomes will play out, but they both have the same ending. The first outcome will be the Clarity Act passes, it will be buy the rumors, sell the news, and nothing happens. And people are like, what's going on? I thought the Clarity Act was the next big thing. What's happening? Nothing's happening. The prices are going down. And in the space about a month, you could say, or essentially a couple of weeks, the market will start to pick up based on the Clarity Act, essentially, and head onto the upside. The second outcome, essentially, that will play out is you'll see slow movements happening inside the crypto space on the upside, with some downs, but mostly on the upside. Some crypto projects will do exceptionally well under the Clarity Act. Some crypto projects won't do great at all. And some crypto projects might do good, but they'll come down once the excitement is done. The other ones that actually have utility will move forward. Now, personal, if you're real, this is the best group online. Let's go. Interesting. Ask the same question. Let's go. Hi, Miles. Good to see you. I direct messaged you this morning about Revolut. Can you please have a look and let me know about your opinion? Obviously, no financial advice. Yes, Carl. I'll take a look at it after that, and I'll take a look at it after that, after the live stream. I'll get back to you. No problem. Where did you direct message me at? Where did you direct message me? Telegram or X? But I'll reply back to you after this live stream. No problem. So you don't think the ETFs can push up to $5 this year? The ETFs can push, but not based on what's happening right now. There's not enough momentum, it's good momentum, to move the crypto market on the upside. There is, but the issue is, it's just we're very, very manipulated right before regulations. There's so much good news, to be fairly honest. I mean, just the other week, we had 7 major behemoths out of essentially Japan coming out, $2.5 trillion portfolio together, green-lighted by the Japanese SFC, entering the crypto space. Incredible news. Charles Schwab's, which we're going to go through today on tonight's live show, essentially green-lighting to enter the crypto space. I mean, Franklin Templeton inside the crypto. I mean, the list just goes on of how much expansion is happening inside the crypto space, and it's all positive news, but yet it's not showing on price action because the market is heavily manipulated. We get a Clarity Act, the manipulation goes away. However, regarding the ETFs, so essentially for XRP, XRP ETFs are doing tremendously better than the rest of the ETFs, and the numbers are also in as well. Brought more XRP today. Very blessed to have such an incredible opportunity. Love your channel. Thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you so much for the kind words, Sylvius. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Why are Democrats blocking crypto? Democrats are on the sides of the banks. It's very obvious where they lay, essentially. The Republicans, not so much. Democrat politicians, not every Democratic politician, but the Democrats in most cases are siding with the banks. The SEC was weaponized to go after the crypto space to slow down so the banks could catch up, because the banks know that they're going to be losing their foothold on the market space the later essentially we go into this whole digital world, because the realization of that you don't need bank accounts, and instead you just do wallet-to-wallet transactions on a domestic base or international essentially perspective. You don't need bank accounts. There was actually essentially a PDF that was released of what the banks possibly think. There's many articles about it as well, that the banks think that the moment essentially people catch on to the idea that they don't need bank accounts and all they can just use wallet-to-wallet transactions and use stable coins essentially for that sense, then there could be possibly a bank run where multiple banks around the world will completely collapse. And banks rely on your money to trade on. And if you're not holding your money inside of a bank account and instead you're holding it inside of a crypto wallet, the banks can't trade on that money, which will be a massive bank run, and some banks would go out of business. unless they get bailed out by the government. But I don't see the point, because if we're a digital world and it's just all about wallets, what's the point of bailing the bank out, depending on how much they're tied into the government? But that's why essentially banks essentially, try to first stop the crypto space, then try to slow it down so they can catch up. And you could tell who was on the bank's side. It was the Democratic Party, which was Pocahontas mostly. Senator Elizabeth Warren, with Gary Gensler, essentially, tried to stop innovation inside the crypto space as much as they could. And how do we know that these two morons work together? Well, because these two idiots weren't very smart. They shared essentially the questions and answers that was going to be asked. You could tell essentially governors, senators were fed up with Gary Gensler's abuse towards the crypto space when he was having sit downs. And Senator Elizabeth Warren, every time she was there, she would give him the Q&A of what's the question going to be and what your answer is going to be. And then she would sit there with a straight face and go, Mr. Gary Gensler, what do you think about this? And he would have the answer because she wrote it down for him. You could tell what side of the spectrum they were standing on, which was the banks, not the crypto space. Also, now that the Trump family is heavily into crypto, mainly because when Trump was trying to become a president of the United States again, the banks decided to kick the Trump family out pretty much and stop any sort of funding, lending, borrowing to the Trump family because Trump decided to become president once again. That's what pushed the Trump family into crypto, not because they loved crypto overnight or because they cared about the crypto space, but the Trump family saw the crypto space as an alternative where nobody can say no to you. Nobody's going to turn around essentially from the crypto space and say, no, you can't use our crypto, because they're not banks, but banks can do that. And that's why the Trump family decided to essentially go towards cryptocurrencies, because they were shut out by the banks. Why were they shut out by the banks? Because of the Democratic Party. Then, moving forward, essentially, Trump family became bigger and bigger in crypto. Trump becomes president. The Democrats hate Trump, and obviously they're going to be hating the crypto space even more. They tried their best to essentially stop innovation inside the United States every step of the way. Since Biden's presidency until Trump's presidency and into Trump's presidency, the Democratic Party have tried everything they possibly could to stop the crypto space. Whether it was to weaponize the SEC, weaponize the CFTC, weaponize the OCC, weaponize the FDIC, I mean, the list just goes on. They just couldn't let it go. Hope that helps a little bit of a history, essentially, on the Democratic Party, on how much they hate the crypto space because of where their politics, essentially, views are with the banks. They don't care about people. In general, politicians don't care about people. They think they're above us. They think they're gods, to be fairly honest. But, that's what politicians think to themselves in their own low brain, small-minded brains, small-minded heads. But, that's a little history for you regarding why the Democrats are trying to block innovation, because they stood with the banks, and then Trump, essentially, they hate Trump even more. Trump going more into crypto made them hate crypto even more. Trump's family making billions of dollars from crypto made them hate crypto even more. The Genius Act that was passed regarding stable coins, they could earn a little bit of a yield. The average Joe in America can earn a little bit of a yield from their stable coins. And the banks went furious. The banks were absolutely furious that the average Joe in America could earn a little bit of money on top of their stable coins. That's how scared they were, because they knew people would take their money from the banks and put it inside essentially stable coins to earn that essentially yield on USDC, USDT, or so on. Because they can't offer the same. They can, but they won't, because they're greedy. They'll never offer the same thing for their own banks. The essentially Democratic Party decided to, again, back the banks and essentially go after the crypto space and say we should change the Genius Act in a way that the banks essentially aren't damaged. Why? Why do you care about the banks so much more than the average Joe inside the United States? So I hope that essentially helps regarding the history of why the Democrats are blocking the crypto space as much as they possibly could. Hey everyone, good to see you, Thompson. How you doing? Miles, is it absolutely amazing that you're able to foresee that it's going to be utility about 2 years ago? Now everyone is acknowledging that factor. Absolutely facts. And thank you so much for the kind words. And yes, it's true. A long time ago, I said crypto, essentially utility, is going to be the most powerful thing inside of crypto space, and it is facts. The banks are crooks like the politicians are crooks. Birds or fleas together, flock together. Facts. Lord Democrats, why they have a donkey as a logo? Banks won't go down without a fight. Pretty much is what it looks like. I'm a registered Democrat, but I find myself the opposite side of this issue with the party. Let's go. I'm tired of hearing Elizabeth Warren's name. She's messy, and I doubt she's going to get rich or crypto to her wrong. Do you believe there are only 7 to 8 million XRP wallets? Jay Caliver said that recently. What's your opinion? I don't know the exact amount, essentially, of XRP wallets out there off the top of my head right now. If you leave a comment outside the live, I'll get back to you, no problem. Now, moving on to Russia. Sorry about that. I honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know how many exact wallets there are right now. But if you leave a comment outside the live on YouTube, I'll reply back to your comment, no problem. Same question, Khalifa. Major Russian banks to offer clients access to cryptocurrencies is what's happening right now. VTB, Russia's second largest bank by assets, intends to allow investors to buy and sell cryptocurrencies through its brokerage accounts. The financial services giant is currently offering clients to invest in crypto derivatives, but plans to provide direct exposure to digital assets next year. Majority state essentially owned VTB Bank formally essentially plans to launch crypto trading services. This is massive news coming out of Russia. As soon as this business is regulated, Russian financial authorities have already indicated that this is likely to happen in the coming months. In the coming months, Russia's essentially banks are going to be offering crypto services. VTB Bank first is going to be the first one to offer crypto services. That means liquidity for us, depending on what they go for. VTB's customers will be able to buy and hold self-decentralized currencies, digital currencies, directly in their individual investment accounts or regular brokerage accounts. The announcement was made by the head of the bank's brokerage services during an international essentially investment conference held in Moscow, essentially. In an interview with the business news portal, essentially RBC, Andrea discussed a range of topics, including the legalization of crypto markets in Russian Federation. Crypto investments in Russia are yet to be properly regulated. Despite its previous opposition, the Central Bank of Russia recently urged lawmakers to do the same thing next year. Only highly qualified investors are currently allowed to invest in crypto, and exclusively within the experimental legal regime proposed by Monetary Authority in March. The digital asset essentially investments are also indirect. In May, the CBR authorized financial firms to offer cryptocurrency derivatives on the domestic essentially market space. For now, these essential instruments are based on foreign funds and essential indices with plans to permit the trading of products directly linked to the underlying assets themselves. Last week, the central bank confirmed it's discussing essentially with the Ministry of Finance ways to expand investor access to crypto and essentially regulate these investments beyond the ELR. Now, Russian regulators are also considering ditching the narrow category for investors, as reported, essentially, and private individuals who want to be granted the status of the super equals now need to have at least 100 million rubles, essentially in traditional investments, and an annual income of 50 million rubles, which is about $1.2 million and $600,000. The upcoming essentially regulatory framework will create conditions for a full-fledged network of intermediaries, including essentially crypto brokers and providers of depository services, establishing a licensing regime for them. Such regulations will definitely increase the transparency of this market. VTB's Andrea essentially commented on the sidelines of the Russian essentially calling form, which is organized by the bank, and said, "We certainly see ourselves there, and we believe it will be beneficial as the infrastructure is already in place and there is a large number of clients," he added. As to whether his organization intends to become a major licensed player in this market, the executive said that it essentially would deepen the final rules. In regards, essentially, Andrea also highlighted the Bank of Russia assigns a significant role to professional market participants and elaborated by saying, "As we see it, real cryptocurrencies will be available for purchase through brokerage accounts in Russian banks. It's unlikely that major players will be able to abandon this approach. Therefore, based on this position, we also participate in the process. Although the broker does not essentially expect the new regulations to make the crypto essentially right way, he acknowledged that client interest in essentially crypto assets is certainly high and reflecting a global trend. As clear indication of departure from its long-term conservative stance on crypto assets, the CBR recently revealed it wants to allow commercial banks to work with cryptocurrencies and permit mutual funds to invest in crypto essentially based derivatives." So, Russia, VTB Bank entering the crypto space, opening its doors and still catering to people that have money. They should be catering to everyone. but still liquidity for us. Honestly, it is quite a big announcement coming out of Russia. It's completely the opposite of what's coming out of China. Now, moving on from the Russian banks opening their doors, which is quite bullish, to Senator Tim Scott scheduling the crypto bill markup for December. So the crypto regulations, which is the biggest topic inside the crypto space. The Senate Banking Committee, led by Senator Tim Scott, plans to mark up the crypto market structure bill on December 17th to December 18th, 2025 in Washington, D.C. So December 17th, December 18th is going to be about crypto regulations. The Senate Banking Committee markup aims to finalize crypto regulations before the year ends. Before the year ends, they want to get the Clarity Act out of the way by the looks of it. Essentially to end the recess, reflecting significant industry essentially involvements and potential market regulation shifts. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, spearheads the crypto market bill structure. December 17th to 18th schedule signifies a push for clearer federal crypto rules. Major industry essentially executives attended prior discussions also. Key senators, including Scott and Cynthia Luminis, are also involved. Industry leaders such as Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong noted the urgency. 13 Republicans and 2 to 3 Democrats may support the bill, potentially enabling the successful markup. The proposed bill aims to reform crypto market structures, providing regulatory clarity. This could impact Bitcoin and Ethereum and DeFi protocols. Strong institutional interest also reflects potential shifts in market dynamics. Financial, social, and political implications include possible institutional participation and enhancing essentially regulatory frameworks, ongoing essentially community dialogues, focus on DeFi regulations, and pivotal for also the future of compliance and innovation inside the United States. Historical delays also affected prior markups, underscoring factors and challenges, SEC essentially token, and also so many issues that we had inside the crypto's biggest one being the government shutdown. While the SEC works on clarifying digital asset regulations, the pending bill could bring financial stability to the United States. Industry leaders exhibit anticipation for smoother regulatory pathways, favoring both technological and financial essentially sectors. We are actively driving factors and momentum to advance clearer federal crypto rules before the year ends, said Senator Reese. Senator essentially Tim Scott, chair of the Senate Banking Committee. By focusing on transparency, not bureaucracy, it also delivers essentially the moving forward for the United States to bring in innovation. I agree 100%, and it's finally good that we have some sort of deadline, because there was rumors that it's going to be the 4th of December, the 8th of December. Now we know. The sit down and the announcements of essentially for the crypto regulation is going to be 17th to 18th of December in Washington, D.C. And apparently, before the year ends, we're going to be having the crypto regulation we need, the Clarity Act. Good news. Very good news. Now, before the year ends as well. As I said, a lot of things can happen in 30 days. Now, a lot of things can happen in the last month, essentially. Charles Schwab's is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. So moving off the Clarity Act to Charles Schwab's. Evening, Miles. How are you doing? We are so close. Facts. Let's go, Peg. Good to see you as well. Charles Schwab's CEO, Rick essentially wants to said that the brokerage remains open to cryptocurrencies and acquisitions. Charles Schwab's opening doors to cryptocurrencies is a big announcement. Day by day, honestly, the amount of institutions entering the crypto space and going to be opening their doors in 2026 is ridiculously high. And you can tell that the next clientele, 100% guaranteed, is institutional clientele and high-profile clientele, and the retail section doesn't matter anymore going into 2026. So, Charles Schwab's CEO, Rick, essentially said the brokerage remains open to cryptocurrencies and acquisitions if valuations align with the firm's strict goals. He outlined the company's broader digital asset essentially ambitions, which he essentially included launching a spot trading and potentially issuing a stablecoin. He also told essential retainers next attendees that Schwab's will evaluate potential crypto sector deals as a part of essentially its ongoing acquisitions and strategies if the right opportunity presented itself in the right place. We would certainly consider that, he said. The firm also plans to launch spot Bitcoin and Ethereum trading in the first half of 2026, after completing the phased essentially testing. He also said the move targets Coinbase's essentially market share in retail crypto trading. Schwab's is also exploring stablecoin launches through the company, has not disclosed any sort of timelines so far, but they have made some sort of announcements of a stablecoin on the way from Charles Schwab's. The brokerage client already essentially holds $25 billion in cryptocurrencies in terms of ETFs products on their platform. Now, he also said that these clients have expressed interest in consolidating their digital asset holdings within Charles Schwab's existing infrastructure rather than maintaining separate accounts on crypto native exchanges. The planned spot trading also launches positions on Schwab's to compete essentially directly with Coinbase in terms of the retail market space. The acquisition strategy suggests the firm may accelerate essentially in crypto expansions through deals rather than building all capabilities internally. Charles Schwab's expanding further inside the crypto space is extremely bullish. Charles Schwab's thinking about doing a stablecoin is an interesting play. Charles Schwab's thinking about doing something similar to BNY Mellon, which is, safeguarding people's crypto assets even better. The more these bigger institutions start offering crypto services, the more reassurance you should have inside the crypto space that crypto is going nowhere and we're just going to be going up. Now, otherwise, these behemoths inside the financial sector wouldn't be taking any of these footsteps inside the crypto sector. Now, moving on from essentially Charles Schwab's to the bond market space. So as we all know, Jerome Powell is going to be out of the door when his term ends, and somebody has to replace him. According to Trump, he's picked the candidate already, and he is pro-crypto. Now, the bond investors are wary of Kevin Hassett as the potential Fed chairman. Kevin Hassett, potentially appointed as the Federal Reserve chairman, has raised concerns among the bond investors about significant interest rate cuts. We all know one thing for sure. Whoever Trump is going to be choosing to lead in terms of essentially the Fed is going to be somebody that listens and agrees to Trump and his administration, which is going to be friendly towards the crypto market space and do interest rate cuts, which the bond market is scared about. Such monetary shifts could influence US debt markets, affecting cryptocurrency values amidst changing investor risk appetites. Kevin Hassett is under consideration for the position of the Federal Reserve chairman, essentially promoting private discussions between the US Treasury and financial players. Investors expressed reservations about his potential rate-cutting policy stance. The U.S. Treasury consultation, essentially with stakeholders, involved numerous financial institutions to gauge sentiment. Changes might also include interest rate shifts directed by Hassett and that essentially align more with the pro-growth Trump-era policies. Such shifts could influence financial markets widely, affecting risk appetite and asset essentially pricing. Though essentially focusing on traditional essentially finance, these moves have essentially broader implications. Mark Zandi, the chief economist, Moody's analyst, also said the bond market is anxious about the possibility of Hassett as the helm of the Fed, fearing aggressive rate cuts that could destabilize yields. The Financial Times essentially market reactions involve wary sentiments among bond investors, fearing potential rate influences. No specific essentially noises from cryptocurrency markets yet, although impacts on liquidity and investor appetite for risk are anticipated. No statements from Hassett or explicit essential responses from the financial regulatory bodies so far, and research teams also explores potential financial shifts that may arise with the potential change in the Federal Reserve leadership. Historical trends also rate policies influence risk assets, and with technological innovations inside the crypto space, adapting essentially to regulatory dynamics. So, regarding essentially the bond market space being afraid of whoever Trump is going to be choosing in terms of essentially the next leader of the Fed, they're worried about too many rate cuts that could undermine essentially bonds and favor cryptocurrencies. Look, I'll be honest. It should be our time. The crypto market space needs rate cuts. We need regulations. everything's going to be working out in our favor. But regarding the bond market, obviously we don't want bonds to be on shaky grounds either, because that's not a good play. So in terms of, are they exaggerating the bond in terms of the bond market space being on shaky grounds? Yes. They won't be doing drastic rate cuts of 200% rate cuts or 250%, because that would just cause massive ripple effects, like a recession type of scenario later on. They're not going to be doing that. But 25 to 50 to 75 is what most likely we're going to be seeing, which is all okay to do. Very essentially, it can play out very favorably for the crypto space unless it's priced in. And also in terms of the bond market space, they won't be shaking too much. Now, why are Americans' biggest banks quietly testing crypto with Coinbase now? Is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. Nia, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Long time. Now, why are Americans' biggest banks moving very silently inside the crypto space? Several major US banks are now experimenting with stablecoins, crypto custody, and digital asset trading through pilots conducted with Coinbase. According to CEO Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase coming out giving hints that several banks are quietly testing with crypto infrastructure, which is a very good sign. So, several major US banks are now experimenting with stablecoins, crypto custody, and so on, according to the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong. Speaking at the New York Times Deal Block Summit, Armstrong said top financial institutions are beginning to view crypto infrastructure as an opportunity rather than a threat, according to Bloomberg. He did not identify the banks participating, but warned that firms resisting the shift risk falling behind. As I said before, every bank essentially that decides not to enter the crypto space, then they'll just get left behind. It's just a guarantee. I mean, it goes back to that old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. And the crypto space is winning due to a Trump presidency. Now, Armstrong appeared alongside BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, marking essentially a rare joint discussion focused on digital asset tokenization and the broader transformation of financial markets. Their conversations unfolded during a period of renowned uncertainty in crypto prices following these steep essentially declines over the past months, and lingering doubts about whether traditional finance will follow through on its long-promised plans to integrate crypto services. Larry Fink, acknowledged how drastically his own views have changed. Honestly, this is for the people that still think to themselves that crypto is not here to stay. When you have somebody like the CEO of BlackRock coming out on a live stage and saying, I was wrong about the crypto space, that should possibly mean everything you want it to mean. Years ago, he dismissed Bitcoin as merely a tool for illicit finance. Today, BlackRock operates the largest spot Bitcoin ETF in the world. Larry Fink said, noting that shift as one of his most public reversals. Leaders at other major banks, including JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, Bank of America, Brian, and Citigroup's Jane, have also shown renowned willingness to engage with asset classes. Morgan Stanley recently began offering crypto trading to E-Trade retail users, reflecting how quickly Wall Street sentiment has shifted completely. The broader embrace of digital assets accelerated after President Donald Trump's second administration took office, essentially ushering in what supporters describe as the most crypto-friendly policy landscape to date. Congress and the White House have already delivered one of the industry's biggest wins, a federal regulatory framework for stablecoins. None of these developments, however, have essentially prevented the markets from sliding. Crypto prices have been under pressure since an October tariff announcement and further weakened essentially by the diverging of the unfading investor confidence. Tokens linked to Trump's aligned projects or personalities have been hit especially hard. Still, Brian Armstrong remains convinced that the downturn is temporary, because it is. There's a reason why all these banks are entering the crypto space now when the markets are not doing too well. He framed the sell-off as a pause before broader adoption of digital representation of stocks, bonds, real estate, and other assets, which is facts. As I said, all of this manipulation is happening borderline to a regulation, a major regulation. We're having so much manipulation right before major regulation, right before all the institutions about to be entering quarter one, quarter two of 2026. Why? Why are we having so much manipulation right before essentially regulation, the major regulations? He framed the sell-off as a pause, essentially, before, and that the next step inside the crypto space is going to be all about stocks, bonds, real estate tokenization, everything else you could possibly think of. Larry Fink also reinforced that outlook. Imagine that. The CEO of BlackRock is agreeing with the CEO of Coinbase on CEO's Coinbase's statement that crypto is about to take over in 2026, pointing to the estimated $4.1 trillion held in digital wallets, mostly stablecoins, as evidence that tokenized assets could unlock far greater utility. Larry Fink described essentially Bitcoin not as a payment asset, but as a hedge against instability. It's good that Larry Fink didn't use Bitcoin in the same category as payments, because it's really not good for payments. As an asset, sure, why not? He said investors tend to buy it out of concern or personal or financial security and lingering anxiety over the long-term, essentially, erosion of asset values driven by, essentially, government deficiencies. Both executives suggested, essentially, that crypto infrastructure and tokenization capabilities will play, essentially, an increasingly central role in global finance, even as the market navigates near-term volatility. So, Larry Fink, the man that hated crypto, now has the biggest Bitcoin ETF in the world, agreeing with Coinbase's CEO's speech about the next stage of cryptocurrencies right before this crypto sell-off that we just had is going to be all about stocks, bonds, tokenization, everything you could possibly think of. And Larry Fink agreeing with him, saying, yeah, the next stage, the next level up is going to be absolutely crazy, is a big statement and a bold statement coming from CEO, essentially, of BlackRock. Now, also agreeing with Brian Armstrong is even better. Moving on from what Larry Fink had to essentially say and agree with, essentially, Coinbase to Bitwise. Bitwise files in for an AVAX, essentially, ETF. So here are some of the details, just like a little breakdown. Bitwise Asset Management has submitted the S1 essential registration statement to the SEC for an AVAX ETF that incorporates staking according to the filing, essentially, which is quite big. The proposed exchange, essentially, ETF with the ticker symbol BAVA, seeks to offer investors exposure to the price of AVAX and a native token of Avalanche blockchain, while also generating additional returns by staking and a portion of its holdings on the network. This development follows initial filing back in September 2025 and positions the product as a potential addition to the US crypto ETF market space, with targeted launch in the first quarter of 2026 on the New York Stock Exchange, Acker Exchange. The amended, essentially, S1 filing updates the original submission by introducing staking as a key feature. So if you're somebody that's big on AVAX's footsteps inside the market space, this is good. An AVAX ETF with staking capabilities makes it more interesting. Now, moving on, essentially, from AVAX and staking capabilities with the ETF to the UK, who moves at a snail's pace when it comes to crypto regulations. Until now, the UK formally recognizes cryptocurrencies as digital assets, as properties under the new Property, essentially Digital Asset, etc. Act 2025 by King Charles, essentially, III today. So the UK has officially, by the King of, essentially, United Kingdom as well, approved cryptocurrencies and considers them as properties. This legal development strengthens the ownership's rights, boosts consumer protection, and is poised to enhance institutional confidence, potentially influencing crypto market dynamics in the UK. Again, we just came out of a massive downtrend, and all this is happening. Regulation, institutions, banks entering quietly. The UK Parliament has officially passed the essentially Property, essentially Digital Asset, etc. Act 2025. The act essentially received the royal assent from the King Charles III. This legislation marks the significant step in recognizing cryptocurrencies as property, as essentially in the property category. The law, championed by essentially SIN of the Crypto and Digital Assets All-Party Parliamentary Group, provides clear ownership rights for digital assets. It also enhances consumer protection and asset recovery. By creating a legal category for digital assets, the UK strengthens consumer confidence, possibly encouraging institutional investments. Industry affected also include payments, finance, and digital marketplaces, where cryptocurrencies are increasingly utilized. This legal acknowledgement may have broader economic implications, potentially bolstering the UK's position in global digital asset markets. The Act passage could lead to increased regulatory scrutiny and financial transparency. Market players and stakeholders anticipate positive outcomes from this legislative action. The classification of digital assets could aid in essentially resolving legal disputes and improve institutional frameworks. The law also sets a precedent in categorizing cryptocurrencies as a property. This is expected to lead financial and regulatory improvements by embedding in them essentially into the formal property rights structures, thereby essentially optimizing legal process. By recognizing digital assets in law, the UK is giving consumers clear ownership rights, stronger protections, and the ability to recover assets lost through the theft or essentially fraud. Department co-chair the Crypto and Digital Assets All-Party Parliamentary Group said. This is huge news coming out of the United Kingdom, extremely bullish news, but yet the market is still reflecting these types of news. Again, it's just because we'll be manipulated. There's so much good news, but also so much manipulation, borderline to a regulation, which, according to the US, it's going to be done and settled with by the year ends regarding a Clarity Act, which is great to hear about that one on 17th to 18th December. Let's see what happens then. But nonetheless, the UK finally taking that footstep forward inside the crypto space, trying to bring innovation back into the United Kingdom. Finally, Labour has done something right. Honestly, it's the only thing they've done right so far inside the country. Now, moving on from that to Ripple. Ripple CEO. On the topic of institutions, banks, governments, all greenlighting the crypto space, coming out of essentially one of the worst months in the crypto space. And all of a sudden, we're coming into institutions, banks working silently, governments greenlighting, and so on. And then having essentially the Clarity Act by the year's end to this speech from Ripple's CEO. Ripple's CEO says that Vanguard, BlackRock, Franklin Templeton joining crypto setups in 2026 come back. Ripple CEO Brad shared a bullish outlook for the future of crypto during a panel discussion at the Binance Blockchain Week, saying he has not felt this positive in years, despite the recent market slowdowns. When asked why the crypto markets has slipped back into some sort of bear phases, Brad said the industry naturally moves in cycles. He explained that during a risk-on period, investors get excited, but the current risk-off environment has brought uncertainty back inside the market space. So it's not a bear market, just a bit of manipulation that created uncertainty. Brad said the pullback should not distract from the bigger picture, which is exactly what I've been saying for a while. You all know what's going to be happening down the road. There should be no fear in what Ripple is going to be achieving, what XRP is going to be achieving, or what other crypto projects you may have, knowing essentially what they're going to be achieving moving forward. Brad said the pullback should not distract you from the bigger picture. He says several major macro trends are now creating strong tailwinds for the entire industry as we head towards 2026. One of the biggest shifts, he said, is the sudden change in attitude from the United States. The US makes up 22% of the global GDP and has openly essentially been hostile to crypto for years. But regulators have recently moved towards clearer and more supportive rules. He said this change is happening faster than many expected, although large institutions are still catching up. Brad pointed out that more traditional giants are stepping into the sector. He pointed out appearances from Franklin Templeton and BlackRock at the event and said even Vanguard, which essentially once publicly refused to touch crypto, has now made major reversals in its stance. He called this an important sign of the growing institutional confidence towards the crypto space. It's no longer just speculation. We're finally seeing crypto solve real-world problems, and that's what supporters of long-term growth want, he said. Looking ahead, Brad said the next phase of the growth will come from real-world use cases rather than speculation. He says crypto platforms are becoming easier to use and more applications are being built to solve real problems in payments, finance, and everyday life. According to him, this shift towards practical adoption will help support a stronger and more sustainable bull market over the next 2 years. which is facts. We don't want temporary uprises inside the crypto space in any sort of a way. We want a strong foundation inside the crypto space so that when we do move on the upside, nothing can bring us back down, depending on the crypto project. For example, the crypto projects that have utility, XRP, XLM, XDCH, Solana, AVAX, list goes on, and the ones that don't, obviously they'll come back down. But when it comes to the crypto space, we don't want temporary boosts inside the market space, because a temporary boost, once the fuel runs out, it'll come back down. But a foundation, a strong foundation inside the crypto space is what we want, which is regulations, badly. But him, essentially Brad, pointing out essentially all these major institutions now coming inside the crypto space, moving off from speculations to a mature crypto space, and also Vanguard, who said genuinely they would never touch the crypto space, now touching the crypto space, introducing crypto features for their client base, is a big play. On that note, that the institutions, the banks, and the governments are opening their doors more towards the crypto space, which essentially we discussed on tonight's live show regarding the United Kingdom, regarding Russia, regarding Georgia, and also essentially the announcements of partnerships that are happening inside the crypto space, and also regarding what Brad essentially had to say regarding the crypto space, and also regarding the other banks inside the crypto space, and Larry Fink agreeing with Coinbase's statements of what's to happen inside the crypto space next. We have come to the endings of tonight's live. This was the CMF live show. This was episode essentially 413 of the CMF live show. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. long time onwards for most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Thank you so much, honestly, to everybody who has liked and retweeted this live show on X. If you haven't, smash the like button, smash the retweet by CMF members, and put a comment outside live as well. If you watch this on YouTube, drop a like, put a comment outside the live, and also drop a follow and subscribe if you already haven't. If you have, thank you so much for following and subscribing, and essentially join the CMF. So before we do obviously go, let's go inside the comment section first, as usual. And I will be seeing all of you, obviously, tomorrow, same timing as usual, 10 p.m. long time onwards. But before we go, let's go inside the comment section first and see what's happening there. I'm good. Yes, I'm never far. Let's go near. Great job, Miles, tonight. Let's go, Scott. Thanks so much. As always, you're prepared and thrown. I appreciate that too. Thank you so much, Scott. We have an open place to share our thoughts or respect for one another. That is a beautiful thing. Thanks for your leadership, Scott. Thanks so much for kind words, brother. Honestly. Night, Miles, the CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Good night, everyone. Stormy, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Great live. Take care, Miles, the CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Good night, mate. Paul, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Thank you, Miles, for what you do. Semper, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual as well. No problem. I'm thinking Larry has been tuning tuning on the Miles lives. Let's go, Susie. Susie, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Thank you, Miles. Great live tonight. See you tomorrow. Hopefully, the meds are kicking in by then. Let's go, Mike. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, my friend. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night to you and CMF. Mickey, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Thanks, Miles, for great positive news. See you tomorrow, friend forever. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Commander. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great live, Miles. Thank you. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, see you tomorrow, but same time as usual. Congratulations on episode 413, Miles. Another great job tonight. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Miles. Great news, everyone. Thanks. Let's go, Callie, and see you tomorrow. Coming to see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. So, thanks, Miles. Valuable information as usual. Take care, Miles, and CMF. Shelly, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. I will see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual, 10 p.m. long time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Tomorrow, 10 p.m. As usual, the disclaimer of this live show is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. I missed Charles Schwab's news. Regarding Charles Schwab's, the Charles Schwab's news was... Thank you so much, Miles, and great job as always. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Let's go, Carlos. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well, Carlos. Regarding Charles Schwab's, it was about Charles Schwab's essentially opening stores to the crypto space. So Charles Schwab's CEO, Rick, said the brokerage remains open to cryptocurrency acquisitions, evaluations aligned with the firm's street goals. He outlined the company's broader digital asset ambitions, which essentially includes launching spot trading and potentially issuing a stablecoin. Charles Schwab's is thinking about issuing a stablecoin on the side and also opening his doors multiple crypto sector offering some sort of crypto services as well, and the current ones that they do offer. On that note, we have reached the endings of tonight's live. I will be seeing everybody tomorrow, same time as usual, 10 p.m. long time onwards. Have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. Disclaimer as usual, no financial advice, no political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Like, comment, share, follow, subscribe if you already haven't. If you have, thank you so much. Share the live and a comment. Let's go, Scott.